it's D, discussion of any board meeting agenda. So if we wanted to, I'm not planning on it, but if we don't, if the way Kathy said the motion, it really wouldn't approve this agenda. I guess that's what I'm saying.
Okay, well, yeah, I second that motion.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. It always says that, William, on the agenda setting is it
Okay,
always
yes,
has
ma'am.
other meeting agendas. All right,
Okay.
please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it
for which it
stands,
stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible.
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. The media has been properly notified. And now we're on to setting the December 3rd, 2020 SIC joint board meeting. So Robin had reached out, I believe, to Kristen.
Yes,
Is
and
Dawn
I
here
can,
with us?
yes, and Dr. Rodriguez has just joined.
Okay, great. Welcome.
So
Go ahead.
So we wanted to talk about the process. Normally, when we have the joint SIC meeting, it's in person and we break up in small groups. What we are suggesting with the discussion with Kristen and Molly is that we would conduct this meeting by Zoom. Instead of breaking up in small groups, we would have two groups, north of the Broad and south of the Broad. Zoom can accommodate that, where people can be allowed to go into two different rooms. So instead of having the cluster meetings that we did when we met at McCracken, we would just do two groups, which would be north to south of the Broad. Then we would come back together and report out. And the topic that Kristen suggests, which is of everyone's topic of concern, is COVID-19. Their questions that were coming out, like out of teacher forum or whatever, is not so much whether we should be 5 days or not, but going 5 days, questions of, are they eating in the cafeteria? How is that going to look? How elementary, they were asking questions about recess. Is there going to be recess? How is that going to look? What are the transitions look like in hallways and so forth? So she was suggesting that the topic just be COVID-19 so that it can cover all of their questions in that, and that we would just keep it in the two groups.
And I have a little bit of a concern that
Okay.
all those questions that you just said will be answered differently by what's happening in the buildings. I don't know, because I mean, we can't, I don't know, that's just my concern. And visiting the schools, like, I know that, Hilton Head Middle School is not planning on using their cafeteria. The kids will be eating in their classrooms. I think I heard the same thing at Hilton Head Island Elementary. So I'm just a little hesitant.
William?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I don't have a problem with that because I think that will bring great information, and that will kind of help us as a district to more understand what the parents in the community have to say. So I don't have a problem with that. I think it's a good idea. So I mean, and for us to understand more of what the parents and community members are saying. So I don't have a problem with it personally.
The other thing of the process would be that we would have to have the SIC people do a registration so that we would know exactly who is attending, because the channel is not covering this. They normally don't when we normally record this. So we would need for the principals and the chairs, the vice chairs, whatever, to send in letting us know who will be attending, so that they'll be assigned to north of the Broad or the south of the Broad breakout rooms, and then we would be able, we would also issue instructions of how we would carry it out. So in speaking, they would have to utilize the hand raise tool in Zoom, because Molly would have to mute everybody who would be participating, because this is also broadcast. It would be open to the public, but they would not be able to participate. So whatever community person looked at, they would be muted.
Okay, so I have a bunch of comments and questions.
Okay.
First of all, I think having it via Zoom instead of in person is perfectly fine. I'm fine with that. And I think for practicality reasons, the logic sounds reasonable that we have 2 groups instead of the 4 or 5 clusters, because that is what can work with Zoom. I have Kathy's concern also. COVID-19 is addressed every single board meeting by our superintendent. And these are operational issues: eating in the cafeteria, recess, transitions, etc. So that's under his purview, and that's something that he's got to work out with his staff, and then at the school level, like Kathy says, because obviously some schools are closer to 100% capacity than other schools have 50% capacity. So it's going to look very different in each of the schools as to how each of these things works out. I also don't think as individual board members that we have how should I say, an individual voice on how this is going to work out. I think we can't answer that as an individual board member, how this is going to work out. I also don't want to see this turning into a complaints about COVID-19. I mean, yeah, COVID-19 stinks. That's the common consensus. It stinks. It totally stinks. But we can't help it. Nobody on this board can help it. Dr. Rodriguez can't help it. And I can see this turning into a complaint department about why are you starting on the 4th? Why aren't you starting on the 8th? Why are you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? I think in a way, I think we need to do something totally off of COVID. And I'm not sure what we should do, but this is why I appreciate the input, and I don't want Kristen to think, her idea is not good, but that's the way I think of it when that topic is presented. William, you have your hand up?
Yes, ma'am. I was going to say, I was wondering, could we do 3 groups? The reason why I wanted to do 3 groups is because the North group and the South group would be great, but also maybe have a mixed group too, just to kind of balance off different areas and just kind of have a little mixture. Maybe we do 20, 30 minutes in a mixed setting, where people where different groups of people come together for maybe 20 minutes of the meeting and just talk about, and maybe that could be something talked about something differently.
William, I think that's a great idea. We normally do that in the way the meeting is structured, because normally we break into these groups and then we come back together all together in the same room, and then everybody hears what the other groups had to say. So everybody does get informed. It's not like they're just going to hear their individual group. So I understand exactly what you're saying, and I think that's a good idea. I'd love to hear what Earl has. Does Earl have any suggestions, or then Dr. Rodriguez? Let's start with Earl. What do you think, Earl?
I think the 2 groups would work fine, North and South would work fine, because a lot of time, the last time we had several school improvement councils did not show up. And I'm pretty sure it's going to be kind of slim this time also. So I think North of the Broad and South of the Broad, we can do that. That's fine with me. I don't have a problem with that.
How about, do you have any suggestions for topics?
Let's see. I know some of the things probably going to come up about the bus drivers, the lunchroom, like someone just mentioned a while ago, and the spacing in the classroom. Because I've had several calls, want to know how is that going to work. And I told them right now, I don't know, but I would find out and get back to them. I've heard also that the teachers are complaining, well, not complaining, but want to know why they should be getting extra pay because of the COVID. I think the other thing is probably going to come up that some teachers have been approved as they could stay at home and they were disapproved. So I think that's probably going to be another thing coming up also. Yeah. And my suggestion to them, if their child have a physical problem, I suggest to them that they should go to the doctor and let him make a recommendation. You know, but those are the things that I'm thinking we're going to talk about.
Dr. Rodriguez?
He's muted.
Dr.
Dr.
Rodriguez,
Rodriguez, you're muted.
we can't hear you.
Can
There
you
we
hear
go.
me now? Can you
Yeah.
hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yep. So one of the things that that I've heard as a conversation piece is, how do suggestions from parents or recommendation from parents on how they could sort of re-engage. Right. In the past, we've had volunteers that typically come into buildings, and of course with COVID, we haven't been able to do that, right? And so one of the questions that I hear is how do we get parent engagement in the midst of the COVID piece, right? And I think that's maybe that's a topic that they can brainstorm as SIC members and provide feedback around.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about the operational issues of, recess, eating in the cafeteria, transitioning between classes, spacing in the classroom, et cetera?
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna basically we're gonna tell them that eating in the classroom is going to be what we're going to do. We can't put 300 people in the cafeteria to have lunch. I mean, that's just not a good idea. Even the school
A point of
district.
order. I know we're talking this out, but it's almost seems like we're having a meeting because this may be the information that the people may want to have. So it would be better. I think it would be better and better discussed at the SIC meeting versus us talking about this now. I think we should set the agenda more along the lines of what will be better to talk about versus actually going into detail about what will be the standard operating procedures at that time.
I think what maybe Dr. Rodriguez, William, is getting at is there may not be choices about these things. So is that correct, Dr. Rodriguez?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at, which is that there are some things that there are not going to be choices around, right?
Right.
Like that, right? We're gonna probably tell schools here that just like now we're not going to do it. We're not going to do it then, and so what opens up sometimes is when you ask people for their thoughts on something or when whatever, but then you can't do it anyway, right? Then people get angry about that, right? It's like, why'd you ask me in the first place, right?
So
Kathy?
let me backtrack a minute. So I need a little bit of clarification. What's the purpose of the SIC meeting? If the purpose is, just to know what questions are, then we could put COVID on. We could frame it, what questions you have regarding procedures, and we could just make a list of questions that then would be addressed by Dr. Rodriguez maybe at Tuesday's board meeting. We can't answer any, but we could make a list. If the purpose is to have an interaction where we can actually be involved with some give and take and responses, then maybe the parent engagement during COVID makes, more sense. I don't know. I have to think back to the last two joint SIC meetings I went to. And are they just listening sessions where we just make a list of their concerns? Or did we in fact, and I think at the last one, we kind of responded to them, but
You did.
I
It's
don't-
a give. It's a
so-
give and take. We usually give them. We solicited questions from them in the past, and they took it back to their constituents, and it was a give and take dialogue. If you use the
Yeah.
question, how to get parent engagement, we can. Kristen would send this out to the SIC so they'll be aware, so that they can get feedback to bring to the meeting, so that you all can have dialogue.
So, Kathy, your point is well taken, and I think, the purpose of a school improvement council is to improve their school. I mean, that's really what the whole idea is. If you go look, there's the state of South Carolina has a very nice website about school improvement council, and I'm sure I don't need to tell you that because you're a former educator, but for the other people that are listening or watching, I would like them to know that. So if the School Improvement Council, the purpose of that is to improve the schools, it's really for, I do think for some give and take in terms of having a discussion. How can the board help you with your goal of improving your school? And I think Dr. Rodriguez's question would be great, because that's how can the parents re-engage? Because that would be at school level, and it would be something to improve the school. So if we can think of other things like that, I think that gets along more of the line of what the purpose of doing this is for. Mr. Smith?
What I was going to say is that I hear what Mrs. Robine was saying, and I think that if we did that, if we just took their questions and not answer them, it would almost be like telling you the food's on the table, but don't eat it. So it's like almost like you're teasing them. I think that it would be a good idea to ask for him to answer the questions that he's comfortable with answering, because these are parents, and this is how we improve schools from their concerns, because they may bring up concerns that Dr. Rodriguez and his staff may not have thought about, or may not be aware of. So if he's not comfortable answering the question, then I think that it would kind of behoove us to let him do his thing, and so he can show that I think this is no different than him having town halls. At a town hall, you're not sure what type of questions that may occur. So I think that COVID-19 is a big deal, and we can also talk about different things about schools and any other things. Because I'm sure some parents are going to bring up other things beside the COVID-19 update. But that way, not only will everything be covered, but if there are some concerns, because I'm sure parents are concerned, then he will answer the question to the best of his ability. And when he don't answer at that time, he can send back to them with a follow-up of an email.
All right. Dr. Rodriguez?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I think if you're going to deal with the parent engagement question, because I think this is an opportunity for the SICs to connect with the board, right? Not necessarily to connect with me. It's mostly, I believe, to connect with the board. But if you're gonna use the parent engagement question, I think what I would do is when you're in the breakout session, you might want to have like a blank sheet. Whoever can share a screen and put a blank sheet up there and type onto that blank sheet, right? And record information as people talk, right? And so what you'd be able to do maybe is frame it around a couple of questions. around parent engagement that you solicit input for. So you can focus the conversation, right? And then you would say something like, given the challenges that COVID-19 present, right? What are your thoughts on how schools can re-engage parents, or whatever, right? Something like that. Or how can parents re-engage schools or whatever, but you can set a couple of questions up that they would respond to, and then you type in whatever their responses are, and you can capture that, and then somebody, whoever's doing that, can report out maybe when the group comes together.
Yeah, I'll just say, and Dr. R, that is kind of the way we have done it in the past, is
Yeah.
exactly that. Take kind of notes. One person in each breakout session does take notes, and then is the one to report to the general group when we come together. So Earl, you had your hand up.
I was just going to say that we could just say that, see what they have to say, and record those, and then we can go from there.
So
Because
what other?
I'm pretty sure that they are going to be talking about COVID and school opening in January, and let's go from there.
All right, Mr. Smith.
Also, I can kind of agree with that a little bit. Some, and also maybe also asking parents, kind of asking them, how are they looking forward to help supporting the school as well, as long as we go through this process. Maybe have other SICs, have any other SICs begin to start thinking of ways how to support the students and the schools, the teachers, in the process of going through this pandemic with the social and emotional piece as well, because I'm sure that there's a lot going on within the community, within some of these kids' home. Whoever is getting them goodie bags or just different things, or just different ways how to enlighten the kids, or helping not just the students but also the teachers as well cope through this. Have they been looking at different things, kind of given a more of a different spin as well? That can be something too, that the board that we bring, that we want to talk to them. Have they thought about that? That's just something I want. I don't know how y'all feel about that, but that's just something I thought about. Maybe I want to respond to how y'all felt about
William,
that.
can you restate that? I'm not sure I got. What exactly are we asking them for?
Okay. Basically, as SICs, as Student Improvement Council, maybe have the council thought about how they can help these schools that they're serving with the emotional component, or how they thought about maybe having some goodie bags, or maybe some different rewarding things that may pass out, maybe popcorn or something to kids, just to kind of give them a bright day, or maybe some goodie bags to just kind of ease their mind, and and maybe even do something for the teachers, just how to kind of like help them get through this time, or have they brainstorm on anything.
So a question might be then, how has your SIC provided support to teachers and students?
Yes, ma'am.
During this time?
Right. Or have you thought about how you could support them? How could you possibly support teachers and students during this time of the pandemic, social and emotionally? Maybe we can brainstorm on that. Do you get what I'm saying, Kathy?
I do. I'm thinking,
Like what could we possibly do, right?
yeah, well,
Those
the
parents
problem
has-
is there's lots of roadblocks because parents can't be in the schools and that kind of stuff. But that doesn't mean they can't think outside of the box.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's right. Okay.
So,
It's an idea. Go ahead. Bye.
I think, so it sounds like those are two good ideas so far in that they really get at the root of what the School Improvement Council's mission is to improve the schools. And I definitely think we need an agenda. I don't think we should just have an open session where anybody can ask anything or
Yeah.
speak about anything. Normally we have an agenda because it will be more organized that way. So far we have seemed to have sort of settled on two questions. One is how can the parents re-engage? So that would be with the SICs in their schools. And then Will's question was how has you sounded like it was more in the future, since we're now going back to 5 days full face-to-face, is how will the SICs help with the assisting, I guess you'd say, or
Assisting, supporting the school that they serve
right.
with the emotional and the social emotional piece, or maybe whether it be rewards or whatever they may come up with. How could they see?
Yeah.
How would they see fit to possibly get engaged to do that?
Right.
I'm
And so
brainstorming.
not just for students, as you mentioned, but also
You're right, not just for students, and teachers as well.
So how will SICs, school SIC teams help support
Yes,
the
ma'am.
social and emotional needs of students and faculty?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes, ma'am. That's great right there. That is great.
I have a,
Yes. Dr. Rodriguez.
okay, so Will, I think that's a great question that you're posing there. And I think I want to, personally, I'll throw this out there and y'all can talk about, what you think about it, but that's two questions right there. I have a third one that might be an interesting one to know about, so that it sort of goes hand in hand with these, but it takes a look at it a little differently. So the question would be, what challenges have you experienced, right, in carrying out the work of an SIC through this COVID-19 piece, right? So that way they get a chance to talk about, how do they re-engage people, right? And then it's important to know what challenges they've experienced that make it difficult, maybe, to do that kind of work. And then Will's question, I think, is sort of a really great closer, right? If you start with the first one we came out with, you use the what challenges have you experienced in carrying out the work of SIC as a second question, and then you bring in the question that Will brought as a sort of a closing third question, which is okay, have you thought about what you can do in terms of supporting your teachers and students, or I forget exactly how you phrased it, Will, but that would be sort of a really nice closing third question for people.
Mrs.
So what about those three questions?
Sorry, I can't see you.
Oh.
Sorry. Can you put up your electronic hands, or Mr. Smith?
I was going to ask Ms. Robine because she just read it again, because the way she had it worded was perfect. That's all I was going to ask.
Okay.
All
So
right.
these are the three questions, Robin, and that I've recorded, and you guys can tell me if I've gotten them. And then we can decide on the order, and then we have some process things to talk about, right?
Mhm.
Okay. So given the challenges that COVID-19 presents, how can schools re-engage parents? That was one. How has your SIC provided support? How has or how will they, or how can in the future type thing? How has your SIC provided support? How has your SIC or how will your SIC provide support the social emotional needs of students and faculty? How can they, maybe is the better
Yeah.
word.
Yeah.
How can your SIC support the social emotional needs of students and faculty? Is that it?
Say it again.
How can your SIC
Provide
Support.
the social emotional needs of students and faculty at your school?
Right. And in there, I was going to say, when you said support, put provide in front of it. How can they provide support?
Okay. Provide support.
And then you'd have to add for the social,
Right.
the social and emotional
needs.
needs
Yeah.
of students and faculty.
Right.
And then the third question was, what challenges have you experienced carrying out the work of your SIC? So, that might be the first one. Okay. What challenges have you had? Has your SIC had carrying out its work during this COVID time? What's been, what are the challenges you've come up with? Then the second one might be the one about, given the challenges that COVID's presented, how can the schools re-engage you? And then the third one, the one about what they can do for support the social emotional. Dr. Rodriguez, others, what do you think about that order?
I'm fine with that order. I mean, I think it's a good set of questions that sort of build on each other. So
I like the order. It's very logical. I like the questions. And I think they're going to generate good discussion.
Remember, the audience that we're talking to, they are the SIC.
Right.
So when you're saying how can you get the SIC, wouldn't we be talking to them directly?
Yeah, but I think we need to keep SIC in there. We know we're talking directly to them, but how can your SIC, I guess, does your complicate it, you think?
No, I think it's good.
It's your or the, how can the us or?
Because these are multiple SICs here.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
So, because it's not one SIC. Yeah, I think it's
Okay.
a good question with the
Okay.
your SIC, because that gets down to each school level.
Yep.
Do you have any, do you need us to repeat anything, Robin, about the questions?
No, I'll get them out and then let you all wordsmith them.
Okay.
Mr. Campbell has his hand up.
Yes,
I
sir.
apologize.
Mr. Smith, please let me conduct the meeting. Thank you,
Oh, no
Mr.
problem.
Campbell.
No, I was just going to say, you could say that you as the SIC, how can you inform parents, because a lot of parents are not going to be there.
Right, and this is the conduit to the parents, which is
Right.
which is great. So have we settled upon the questions, committee members? Kathy and Will?
I'm good.
Mr. Smith?
Yeah. So, Mr. Campbell, how long do we have at the SIC meeting?
I beg your pardon?
Oh, I was asking how long is the SIC meeting? Because you were one to add your question on your piece onto a question, or?
No, I'm just, that's just a suggestion as to just say, ask the SIC, how would they relate to, and how would they forward the information to the parent? That's all. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. So I was going to say maybe Mr. Robine and Mrs. Dr. Guads, maybe I guess we can put as well as how could you see the SIC forwarding information to the parents?
No,
Is that your question? That's a question, Mr. Campbell. I was going to say just add the end piece to one of his questions, to one of the questions. That's all I was going to say.
I think that's a basic part of
one of them.
their job description, but you know, we I
What's
would
the first
imagine,
question?
Earl, can I ask you something? It
Yes.
seemed like you were wordsmithing that the third question about like when we said your SIC, that you were
Yes.
just trying to wordsmith it. Okay,
Right.
that's the way I understood it to be. So Robin will give us the questions, the way Kathy and we have discussed, or Kathy
Right.
dictated back, and if to distribute them, and if we can think of better words, that's fine. So Mr. Smith, you have not said whether you're okay or not with the questions.
I was asking Mr. Campbell because it sounded like he was trying to add a question. That was what I was thinking, but okay, no problem. Yeah, I have no problem with the questions. Just only thing I would possibly want in there is something about possibly maybe even take some covert questions from parents if they would want to forward them or something, because I'm sure that at some point in time that they would like to engage in the conversation of covert, because of the fact that they maybe, even if maybe every committee can submit three questions or two questions, and maybe depending on the severity of them, the board we can just submit them out to the board, and the board possibly, if they see a stunning reason, maybe we can submit them to Dr. Rodriguez or something, and submit them back to all the committees, and maybe we just can shoot all the committees an email.
Kathy?
well, I can say I've attended SIC meetings at 2 of the schools here, and they're already doing that. They're coming up with questions, and the questions are getting forwarded. In fact, Dr. Rodriguez came to one of the SIC meetings to answer them. You know, he was invited by the SIC. So, you know, I think that's being done, William, but if you're thinking, you know, I don't know. I think that's being done. Maybe that's all.
I think then we sort of get off the general theme of where we are. Although I understand, you know, Will's concerned about the COVID-19. And if you're having each, you know, there's 32 schools or 33 schools or whatever in the district, and each submits 2 questions. I mean, you're talking 66, you're talking hours of answering, I think. And if it's already being done at the SIC level, it's a little bit off topic of us trying to, that's more operational. This is more, the 3 questions we have, I think, are really good. And I think they'll generate excellent discussion and keep people engaged. I think people are typically, you know, an hour of discussion and then maybe a summary or whatever after that. So it's typically somewhere between an hour and a half. And I think what we have for the agenda would fit nicely in that framework.
Dr. Rodriguez, do you feel like you hearing from SICs, or are the principals forwarding information to you from the SICs?
Yes, I had my hand up, so I just took it down because that's what I was gonna just mention to you. We get questions. What happens is they generally have their SIC meetings. They're having them via Zoom, and then the principals gather information, and the things that they can't answer or are directed at the district or are more appropriate for the district office to provide insight in or feedback in. The principals call us. The principals, we meet with the principals weekly via Zoom. At this, throughout this year, we've missed a couple of weeks, but for the most part, we've been meeting weekly, and essentially, we get those questions. They'll call us or they'll ask us in a session, and then we respond or we do a little more research on, and then get back to them, and then they share that back out to their SICs and subsequent meetings. So we do get questions that find their way to us through school principals. And sometimes parents will email us directly,
Are you okay with that, William?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
All right, so we got the 3 questions, and now the I guess the process, as Kathy said. So are we on board for the meeting to be via Zoom?
Yes.
Okay. Then the not the waiting room, dividing into the 2 groups, north and south, but reconvening for the summary of the responses will allow the interaction between the 2 groups that Will was pointing out, I think. Do you have any comments regarding that?
No, I think.
Okay,
Dr. Rodriguez?
Yeah, I think one thing would be important to do is Robin and Molly, and we can help you with this, we can have a quick trial run with just people from the district, a handful of people that we would separate into the different breakout rooms so that we have a practice run on doing that, a practice run on somebody who's facilitating that. Like maybe you'll want Kristen to facilitate one group so that she can share her screen and jot down the information or whatever it is protocol we're going to utilize, but that we have a trial run beforehand so that if we get a glitch, we're not trying to figure it out at that time.
Also, we start out together in a group so that you can give instructions and a welcome as to what we're going to do. We would break out into the group and then we would come back. But we would start off as a whole group, and those instructions would be given to everyone at that time, so they'll know what was going on in that they would be coming back together as one group.
Yeah.
Kathy?
Yes. I'm just agreeing.
Okay. Mr. Smith?
On my end, I agree.
Okay.
I think that I have a problem with that.
And so the meeting start time, I think we already have it posted.
It's 6 to 7:30.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other?
So how long do you want the groups to meet, and how long, because we would set a time, so how long do you want the group to meet? And then how long is the report out?
I think an easy way to do it would be till 8 o'clock. I mean, you could have the group, so opening statements or, welcoming that, et cetera, and then breaking out into the groups and having them have like 15 minutes a question, because that would be then a total of 45 and the, let's say 10 or 15 minutes of beginning, or we could do just 10 minutes a question. But I think since it's probably a fairly large group, something on the order of about
45 minutes.
With the breakout sessions.
With the breakout sessions, okay.
Kathy or Will? Could
Yeah.
you raise your hand?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay,
I don't have a problem with that.
Kathy?
Yeah, and then 45 minutes in the total, that's an hour and a half. That
Yeah.
gets you to 7:30.
So that means we would be running tight on time. We would have to be right. Everything has to be right on that on time.
Well, we generally go over, when they do the report out, but
Yeah.
we advertise the time from 6 to 7:30.
Just don't post it on the agenda.
We
Yeah.
don't put a specific time. We
By the way,
just need to make a of when we want to break and when you would like to get back together.
okay.
Right.
Do
So,
you want to, I think we understand the questions, we understand the
Right.
format. Is there would anybody else like to add anything or raise any other question or concern about it?
so we're going to need to designate 2 facilitators. William, if Kristen,
No, I agree. No, I agree with you. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Kristen does one group, then somebody else has got to do the other group.
Yes, I will
then-
do.
Go ahead.
Yes, it would be Molly or I.
Okay.
That's what I was thinking also, Robin.
Yes.
That would be one of you guys.
It
That's
would be
how-
one of us because the other, we're both as co-hosts and you still have to have the whole meeting going on at the same time. So if people come in late, they get to be pushed into one of the 2 rooms.
Right.
Okay.
And then the board members would also be divided into the 2 rooms.
Correct. We would divide the board members by north and south based off of their districts.
Mhm.
Right.
That makes sense.
Sounds good.
William has a question.
Yes, William?
I would say also, would it be all right for us to send out the questions prior to coming to the board members? So just so that they just can, if they want to elaborate to help out in the room, that they can just know the questions.
The questions will be on the agenda and yes, I'll send them out to the board members.
Okay. Oh, thank you, Ms. Christian. That's cool.
All right. Mr. Smith?
Oh no, I just need to put my hand down. I apologize.
Thank you. All right. I don't think we have other board meeting agendas to discuss because
No.
we're going to be meeting November 30th to set the agenda for December 8th.
Right.
Yeah.
So I move we adjourn.
Sounds good. William?
I second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Good night and thank you, everybody.
All right.
Good night.
Thank you.